Speaking of the country, let's talk about the state of it. We got the State of the Union. I want to save some time for John Dickerson, who's going to be here in a minute. We're going to begin with that high-stakes State of the Union address. Joe Biden last night, he's making his case for a second term. That's clear. The president appeared, well, pretty fired up as he went on the offensive on big issues like Roe v. Wade and the border and the economy. And some of those issues were on display inside the chamber. Many Democratic female lawmakers were dressed in white to show support for reproductive rights. And then outside the Capitol, protesters blocked some streets calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. During the speech, the president repeatedly slammed his predecessor. Donald Trump, though, did not mention Donald Trump by name. Nancy Cordes has been following it all. She's at the White House for us this morning. Nancy, I got to think they're feeling pretty good about this speech last night. Good morning.
They certainly did a victory lap last night, Tony. Good morning to you. Good morning, everyone. You know, the speech was more combative than we had been led to expect here at the White House. He brought up his Republican opponent at least a dozen times in an address that was clearly designed to show that the president has the energy, the fire in the belly to serve another 4 years.
The President of the United States.
With re-election on the line, an animated President Biden came out of the gate swinging.
You can't love your country only when you win.
He talked about defending democracy and repeatedly went after former President Trump without naming him.
My predecessor.
He accused Trump of kowtowing to Russia's Vladimir Putin.
I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable.
Biden urged Congress to approve more aid for Ukraine, which is struggling to fend off Russia.
My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away.
Abortion was a focus. The president welcoming Kate Cox to the chamber, the Texas mom who was blocked by a state court from terminating a non-viable pregnancy. In a rare move, the president spoke directly to the Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade.
With all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. You're about to realize just how much you were right about that.
It was a speech designed for an election year. Biden pushing for tax credits and lower health care costs.
I want to cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month for every American who needs it. Everyone.
On immigration, the president called on Congress to pass a bipartisan Senate border deal after House Republicans rejected it at Trump's urging.
I will not demonize immigrants saying they are poison in the blood of our country. I will not separate families. Send me the border bill now.
President Biden also reiterated his support for Israel as families of hostages held by Hamas looked on.
I pledge to all the families that we will not rest until we bring every one of your loved ones home.
Members of his own party held up signs supporting a ceasefire as Biden announced the U.S. military will build a temporary port to get more aid into Gaza.
Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority.
Alabama Senator Katie Britt delivered the Republican response.
We know that President Biden didn't just create this border crisis. He invited it.
When I left office, we gave Joe Biden the most secure border in U.S. history.
Throughout all of it, Trump delivered his promised play-by-play, weighing in on everything from Biden's hair to lipstick on his cheek. Near the end, Biden acknowledged concerns about his age and said this.
Isn't how old we are. It's how old are our ideas. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America.
Now, Biden wasn't the only one who was animated last night. Republicans in the chamber challenged him at a couple of points, and he appeared to relish the unscripted back and forth with them over taxes and immigration. But the scripted part, that was the template for his general election message, and he's taking it on the road starting today with a campaign speech in Philadelphia in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. Gayle.
I would think they'd want to keep this going. Thank you, Nancy. On days like this, we are always very happy because guess what? We are joined by our chief political analyst. There he is, John Dickerson. John, there was a lot of hand-wringing last night before the speech. What's he going to do? How's he going to say it? But today there's words like fiery to describe it. So did he meet the moment?
Well, he met the moment in part because of that hand-wringing, right? Expectations were in the sub-basement. But what's interesting is that the White House were saying it's going to be a fiery, energetic speech leaning into basically theater review, right? Which is, it has nothing to do with policies or any of that stuff, but they bought into it, got everybody to pay attention. And then, as Nancy said, he laid out the argument for the fall campaign. It has two components. One is his predecessor as a threat to democracy. The president started his speech by talking about America in 1941 with the threat of Nazism in World War II. You can't set the stakes any higher. He then also got into a populist fight on economic policy with Donald Trump, essentially saying we need to raise corporate taxes and tax the wealthy in order to pay for things to help people to have access to opportunity in America. That's his campaign, and laid it out pretty effectively, I think. But now many things will intervene between now and Election Day.
What did you think about the action in the chamber? We had the red hat with Marjorie Taylor Greene, some shouting, decorum. Mike Johnson was trying to keep the temperature low. Did he accomplish it?
Well, he certainly, with his own behavior, I mean, he did not move much. You'll remember Nancy Pelosi tore up the speech of a president running for re-election in 2020. There was the acting out. Biden was baiting them, too. I mean, he wanted that contrast.
There was a little bit of trolling, I thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was throwing chum
yes.
into the well, and some responded, and then he played off of that. It's it's part of the theater we have to endure. But the important point is to remember that that Capitol was ringed with fences because of the security concerns that come from people who act out and really act out, and that's where all this acting out leads to ultimately, and it's I mean, I hate to be a downer, but it's that's still the environment that our politics takes place in.
Coming off the heels of the primary, we realized that there were uncommitted voters, and this was President Biden's opportunity to gain some momentum. And you touched on it a little bit going into his presidential campaign. Do you think he did that properly?
Well, they are responding to those uncommitted voters, both rhetorically and talking about trying to get aid and putting pressure on Israel to embrace a ceasefire, but then also with the seaport to deliver aid into Gaza. 500 trucks a day normally go into Gaza to deliver aid. It's down to 100 now. The UN says 570,000 adults are in danger of basically headed towards starvation. So there is a crisis, and he's trying to say, I hear you, and I'm doing something about it. You know, January 6th was an attempt to use violence to send a political message. But what those uncommitted voters did is they used the process to send a political message. The president clearly hears it, and that's the way democracy should work.
Yeah, John, awesome stuff, man. I know you've been working hard.
Thank you very much.